Hello, welcome back and good evening. It's 8 p.m. evening soon. So I'd like to read about this Cessna 172, but I did like 1 year ago. I'd like to make a daily video about it. So I like to get started because the time is running and I like to go to bed and do nothing. So I read about it a long time ago. Yes, I need half a minute to get to my bed. So I read this because I like to read about it myself.
Cessna 172. The Cessna 172 Skyhawk is an American four-seat, single-engine, high-wing, fixed-wing aircraft made by the Cessna Aircraft Company. First flown in 1955, more 172s have been built than any other aircraft. It was developed from the 1948 Cessna 170 but with tricycle landing gear rather than conventional landing gear. The Skyhawk name was originally used for a trim package, but was later applied to all standard production 172 aircraft, while some upgraded versions were marketed as the Cutlass, Powermatic, and Hawk XP. The aircraft was also produced under license in France by Reims Aviation, which marketed upgraded versions as the Reims Rocket. Measured by its longevity and popularity, the Cessna 172 is the most successful aircraft in history. Cessna delivered the first production model in 1956, and as of 2015, the company and its partners had built more than 44,000 units. With a break from 1986-96, the aircraft remains in production today. A light general aviation airplane, the Skyhawk's main competitors throughout its lifetime have been the Beechcraft Musketeer and Grumman American AA-5 series, neither currently in production, the Piper PA-28 Cherokee, and, more recently, the Diamond, the 40 Star and Cirrus SR-20. Design and Development, Edit. The Cessna 172 started as a tricycle landing gear variant of the taildragger Cessna 170, with a basic level of standard equipment. In January 1955, Cessna flew an improved variant of the Cessna 170, a Continental 0300, a powered Cessna 170C with larger elevators and a more angular tail fin. Although the variant was tested and certified, Cessna decided to modify it with a tricycle landing gear, and the modified Cessna 170C flew again on the 12th of June, 1955. To reduce the time and cost of certification, the type was added to the Cessna 170 type certificate as the Model 172. Later, the 172 was given its own type certificate. The 172 became an overnight sales success, and over 1,400 were built in 1956, its first full year of production. Early 172s were similar in appearance to the 170s, with the same straight aft fuselage and tall landing gear legs, although the 172 had a straight tail fin while the 170 had a rounded fin and rudder. In 1960, the 172 incorporated revised landing gear and the swept-back tail fin, which is still in use today. The final aesthetic development, found in the 1963 172D and all later 172 models, was a lowered rear deck allowing an aft window. Cessna advertised this added rear visibility as Omnivision. Production halted in the mid-1980s, but resumed in 1996 with the 160 HP, 120 kilowatts, Cessna 172R Skyhawk. Cessna supplemented this in 1998 with the 180 HP, 135 kilowatts, Cessna 172S Skyhawk SP. Modifications, edit. The Cessna 172 may be modified via a wide array of supplemental type certificates, STCs, including increased engine power and higher gross weights. Available STC engine modifications increase power from 180 to 210 HP, 134 to 157 kilowatts, add constant speed propellers, or allow the use of automobile gasoline. Other modifications include additional fuel tank capacity in the wingtips, added baggage compartment tanks, added wheel pans to reduce drag, or enhanced landing and takeoff performance and safety with a still kit. The 172 has also been equipped with the 180 HP, 134 kilowatts, fuel-injected Superior Air Parts Vantage engine. Operational history, edit. World records, edit. From the 4th of December, 1958, to the 7th of February, 1959, Robert Tim and John Cook set the world record for refueled flight endurance in a used Cessna 172, registration number N9172B. They took off from McCarran Field, now Harry Reid International Airport, in Las Vegas, Nevada, and landed back at McCarran Field after 64 days, 22 hours, 19 minutes and 5 seconds in a flight covering an estimated 150,000 miles, 240,000 kilometers, over 6 times further than flying around the world at the equator. The flight was part of a fundraising effort for the Damon Runyon Cancer Fund. The aircraft is now on display at the airport. Variants, edit. Cessna has historically used model years similar to U.S. auto manufacturers, with sales of new models typically starting a few months prior to the actual calendar year. 172. Introduced in November 1955 for the 1956 model year as a development of the Cessna 170B with tricycle landing gear, dubbed Lando-matic by Cessna. The 172 also featured a redesigned tail similar to the experimental 170C, paralift flaps, and a maximum gross weight of 2,200 pounds, 998 kilograms. While retaining the 170BS 145 HP, 108 kilowatts, Continental 0300 a 6-cylinder, air-cooled engine. The 1957 and 1959 model years brought only minor changes, while 1959 introduced a new cowling for improved engine cooling. The prototype 172 C/N612 was modified from 170 C/N27053, which previously served as the prototype of the 170B. A total of 3,757 were constructed over the 4 model years, 1,178, 1956, 1,041, 1957, 750, 1958, 788, 1959. 1720. 1960 model year with a swept-back vertical tail and rudder and powered by a 145 HP, 108 kilowatts, 0300C engine. It was also the first 172 to be certified for float plane operation. 994 built. 172B. 1961 model year with shorter landing gear, engine mounts lengthened by 3 inches, 76 mm, a reshaped cowling, a pointed propeller spinner, and an increased gross weight of 2,250 pounds, 1,021 kilograms. For the first time, the Skyhawk name was applied to an available deluxe option package that included optional wheel fairings, avionics, and a cargo door along with full exterior paint rather than partial paint stripes. The Skyhawk was also powered by an O300D in place of the O300C of the standard model. 989 built. 172C. 1962 model year with fiberglass wingtips, redesigned wheel fairings, a key starter to replace the previous pull starter, and an optional autopilot. The seats were redesigned to be 6-way adjustable, and a child seat was made optional to allow 2 children to be carried in the baggage area. 810 built. 172D. 1963 model year with a cut-down rear fuselage with a wraparound Omnivision rear window, a one-piece windshield, increased horizontal stabilizer span, and a folding hatch shelf in the rear cabin. Gross weight was increased to 2,300 pounds, 1,043 kilograms, where it would stay until the 172p. New rudder and brake pedals were also added. 1,011 were built by Cessna, while a further 18 were produced by Reims Aviation in France as the F172D. 172E. 1964 model year with a redesigned instrument panel with center-mounted avionics and circuit breakers replacing the electrical fuses of previous models. 1,209 built, 67 built by Reims as the F172E. 172F. 1965 model year with electrically operated flaps to replace the previous lever-operated system and improved instrument lighting. 1,400 built, plus 94 by Reims as the F172F. The 172F formed the basis for the U.S. Air Force's T-41 Mescalero primary trainer, which was used during the 1960s and early 1970s as initial flight screening aircraft in USAF undergraduate pilot training, UPT. Following their removal from the UPT program, some extant USAF T-41s were assigned to the U.S. Air Force Academy for the Cadet Pilot Indoctrination Program, while others were distributed to Air Force Aero Clubs. 172G. 1966 model year with a longer, more pointed spinner and sold for US $12,450 in its basic 172 version and US $13,300 in the upgraded Skyhawk version. 1,474 built, including 26 as the T-41O, plus 140 by Reims as the F172G. 172H. 1967 model year with a 6-tier alternator replacing the generator, a rotating beacon replacing the flashing unit, redesigned wheel fairings, and a shorter stroke nose gear oleo to reduce drag and improve the appearance of the aircraft in flight. A new cowling was used, introducing shock mounts that transmitted lower noise levels to the cockpit and reduced cowl cracking. The electric stall warning horn was replaced by a pneumatic one. 1,586 built, including 34 as the T-41O, plus 435 by Reims as the F172H for both the 1967 and 1968 model years. 172I. The 1968 model year marked the beginning of the Lycoming-powered 172S, with the 172i introduced with a Lycoming 0320E2D engine of 150 HP, 112 kilowatts, an increase of 5 HP, 3.7 kilowatts, over the Continental power plant. The increased power resulted in an increase in optimal cruise from 130 miles per hour, 209 kilometers per hour, true airspeed, TARS, to 131 miles per hour, 211 kilometers per hour, TARS. There was no change in the sea level rate of climb at 645 feet, 197 m per minute. Starting with this model, the standard and deluxe Skyhawk models were no longer powered by different engines. The 172i also introduced the first standard T instrument arrangement. 649 built. 172J. Main article, Cessna 177 Cardinal. For 1968, Cessna planned to replace the 172 with a newly designed aircraft called the 172J, featuring the same general configuration but with a more sloping windshield, a strutless cantilever wing, a more stylish interior, and various other improvements. A single 172J prototype, registered N3765C, C/N660, was built. However, the popularity of the previous 172 with Cessna dealers and flight schools prompted the cancellation of the replacement plan, and the 172J was redesignated as the 177 from the second prototype onward and sold alongside the 172. 172K. Introduced for the 1969 model year with a redesigned tailfin cap and reshaped rear windows enlarged by 16 square inches, 103 centimeters. Optional long-range 52 US gal, 197 L, wing fuel tanks were also offered. The 1970 model year featured fiberglass, downward-shaped, conical camber wingtips and optional fully articulated seats. 2,055 build for both model years, plus 50 by Reims as the F172K. 172L. Introduced for the 1971 model year with tapered, tubular steel landing gear legs replacing the original flat spring steel legs, increasing landing gear width by 12 in. 30 centimeters. The new landing gear was lighter, but required aerodynamic fairings to maintain the same speed and climb performance as experienced with the flat steel design. 172L also had a nose-mounted landing light, a bonded baggage door, and optional cabin skylights. The 1972 model year introduced a plastic fairing between the dorsal fin and vertical fin to introduce a greater family resemblance to the 182's vertical fin. 1972 also introduced a reduced diameter propeller, bonded cabin doors, and improved instrument panel controls. 1,535 build for both model years, plus 100 by Reims as the F172L. 172M. Introduced for the 1973 model year with a camber lift wing with a drooped leading edge for improved low-speed handling, a key-locking baggage door, and new lighting switches. The 1974 model year introduced the Skyhawk 2, which was sold alongside the baseline 172M and Skyhawk models with higher standard equipment, including a second nav/com radio, an ADF and transponder, a larger baggage compartment, and nose-mounted dual landing lights. 1975 introduced inertial shoulder harnesses and an improved instrument panel and door seals. Beginning in 1976, Cessna stopped marketing the aircraft as the 172 and began exclusively using the Skyhawk designation. This model year also saw a redesigned instrument panel to hold more avionics. Among other changes, the fuel and other small gauges were relocated to the left side for improved pilot readability compared with the earlier 172 panel designs. 6,826 built, 4,926, 1973-75, and 1,900, 1976, plus 610 by Reims as the F172M. 172N Skyhawk /100. 1977 model year powered by a 160 horsepower, 119 kilowatts, Lickerming 0320H2AD engine designed to run on 100 octane fuel, hence the Skyhawk /100 name, whereas all previous engines used 80/87 fuel. Other changes included pre-select flap control and optional rudder trim. The 1978 model year brought a 28-volt electrical system to replace the previous 14-volt system as well as optional air conditioning. The 1979 model year increased the flap extension speed to 110 knots, 204 km per hour. 6,425 total built, 1,725, 1977, 1,725, 1978, 1,850, 1979, and 1,125, 1980, plus 525 by Reims as the F172N. 1720. There was no O model 172, to avoid confusion with the number 0. 172P Skyhawk P. Introduced for the 1981 model year with a Lickerming 0320D2J engine replacing the 0320H2AD of the 172N, which had proven unreliable. Other changes included a decreased maximum flap deflection from 40 degrees to 30 to allow a gross weight increase from 2,300 pound, 1,043 kilograms, to 2,400 pound, 1,089 kilograms. A 62 US gal, 235 L, wet wing and air conditioning were optional. The 1982 model year moved the landing lights from the nose to the wing to increase bulb life, while 1983 added some minor soundproofing improvements and thicker windows. 1984 introduced a second door latch pin, a thicker windshield and side windows, additional avionics capacity, and low vacuum warning lights. 2,664 total built, 1,052, 1981, 724, 1982, 319, 1983, 179, 1984, 256, 1985, and 134, 1986, plus 215 by Reims as the F172P. Following the end of 172P production in 1986, Cessna ceased production of the Skyhawk for 10 years. 172Q Cutlass. Introduced for the 1983 model year, the 172Q was given the name Cutlass to create an affiliation with the 172RG Cutlass RG, although it was actually a 172P with a Lickerming 0360 a 4N engine of 180 horsepower, 134 kilowatts. The aircraft had a gross weight of 2,550 pound, 1,157 kilograms, and an optimal cruise speed of 122 knots, 226 kilometers per hour, compared to the 172PS cruise speed of 120 knots, 222 km per hour, on 20 HP, 15 kilowatts, less. It had a useful load that was about 100 pound, 45 kilograms, more than the Skyhawk P, and a rate of climb that was actually 20 feet, 6 m, per minute lower, due to the higher gross weight. The Cutlass II was offered as a deluxe model of the 172Q, as was the Cutlass II forward/nav pack with IFR equipment. The 172Q was produced alongside the 172P for the 1983 and 1984 model years before being discontinued. Sources disagree on the exact number of 172Q aircraft built, and the construction numbers listed on the Federal Aviation Administration type certificate overlap with those of the 1983 and 1984 172P. 172R Skyhawk. The Skyhawk was introduced in 1996 and is powered by a derated Lycoming IO360L2, producing a maximum of 160 horsepower, 120 kilowatts, at just 2,400 RPM. This is the first Cessna 172 to have a factory-fitted fuel-injected engine. The 172RS maximum takeoff weight is 2,450 pound, 1,111 kilograms. This model year introduced many improvements, including a new interior with soundproofing, an all-new multi-level ventilation system, a standard 4-point intercom, contoured, energy-absorbing, 26G front seats with vertical and reclining adjustments and inertia reel harnesses. 172S Skyhawk SP. The Cessna 172S was introduced in 1998 and is powered by a Lycoming IO360L2, producing 180 horsepower, 134 kilowatts. The maximum engine RPM was increased from 2,400 RPM to 2,700 RPM, resulting in a 20 HP, 15 kilowatts, increase over the R model. As a result, the maximum takeoff weight was increased to 2,550 pound, 1,157 kilograms. This model is marketed under the name Skyhawk SP, although the type certification data sheet specifies it is a 172S. The 172S is built primarily for the private owner-operator and is, in its later years, offered with the Garmin G1000 avionics package and leather seats as standard equipment. As of 2009, the 172S model was the only Skyhawk model in production. Variants under 175 type certificate, edit. As the Cessna 175 Skylark had gained a reputation for poor engine reliability, Cessna attempted to regain sales by rebranding the aircraft as a variant of the 172 P172D Powermatic. The 175 Skylark was rebranded for the 1963 model year as the P172D Powermatic, continuing where the Skylark left off at 175C. It was powered by a 175 HP, 130 kilowatts, Continental Go 300E with a geared reduction drive powering a constant speed propeller, increasing cruise speed by 11 miles per hour, 18 kilometers per hour, over the standard 172D. It differed from the 175C in that it had a cut-down rear fuselage with an Omnivision rear window and an increased horizontal stabilizer span. A deluxe version was marketed as the Skyhawk Powermatic with a slightly increased top speed. Despite the rebranding, sales did not meet expectations, and the 175 type was discontinued for the civilian market after the 1963 model year. 65 were built, plus 3 by Reims as the FP172D. R172E. Although the 175 type was discontinued for the civilian market, Cessna continued to produce the aircraft for the United States Armed Forces as the T-41 Mescalero. Introduced in 1967, the R-172E was built in T-41B, T-41C, and T-41D variants for the U.S. Army, USAF Academy, and U.S. Military Aid Program, respectively. As the T-41B, the R-172E was powered by a fuel-injected 210 HP, 157 kilowatts, Continental IO360D order driving a constant-speed propeller, and featured a 28V electrical system, jettisonable